everyone, I'm Jessica. Welcome to Fullness of Focus, where I help people to master their focus to create what they want. I'm certified in unconscious reprogramming, and I've created my own method to help people to master their energy, master their life through getting in touch with their intuition and learning how to shift their energy. It's so interesting because in this video, I wanted to share with you the number one thing that is stopping people from creating what they want in their life. And it's so simple, but it's something that's so hard to gain clarity around. And I'll go into the reasons why. So when I was taking my certification, I remember the teacher was talking about how when he was doing sessions for unconscious reprogramming, how so many people during an hour session would spend 45 minutes talking about what they don't want, pouring all of their energy, their focus, their attention into speaking about what they don't want. How many of us do this in our daily life, right? And he was saying he would ask them, well, what do you want? And they would go into, again, well, they can't have that because of this, and this, and all of this stuff is happening, so this, and he would ask them again, well, what do you want? And again, they would go into all the reasons why they can't have what they want or why things aren't working out for them. And they would continue to pour all their energy and focus on why they can't have what they want and why things are going wrong and focusing on the problem. And so that's the number one thing, is people don't even have clarity on what they actually want. And a lot of times they don't even allow themselves to dream as big as to what they want, because they're like, well, because of this limitation or because of this thing that happened to me or because I'm this person, I can only dream this big, and so I will do this. But it's actually not what they truly want in their heart of hearts. And what's placed in your heart is meant for you because you can achieve it. Your dreams are not random. And when you get to the heart of it, you will have a dream inside that isn't, programmed probably from outside society of getting these things maybe that you think that you want, but something that you actually truly want. And that comes from allowing yourself to dream, right? And it comes from first shifting your energy, getting out of that fear state, that anxiety state, that focus on the problem state, right? First coming back to yourself, getting coherent in your energy, getting very centered. And there's practices that you can use to do that. And then opening your focus and awareness, right? And connecting to a higher frequency, a higher energy. And from that energy, you can receive new insights, new possibilities. And you can start to gain true clarity on what it is that you want. And so what am I talking about? Well, if you think about, if you're very angry about something, right? You're very focused on the anger and on the problem, your focus is narrowed, right? If you're in a restaurant and you're angry about something, then you're gonna see other things that are gonna make you angry, and you're so focused, and there could be something amazing going on right next to you, but you're not going to notice it because that's not your frequency, right? A person with an opportunity that you have an ability to meet with, or that has an ability to see you, you guys aren't going to connect because it's not your frequency. But if you're able to center and open your focus, you can see, oh wow, there's these people over here doing this, or there's this thing happening over here. Oh, there's this free event happening over here that I can go to. Like, you open your focus and you see these other things. Two people can be in the same place and have a completely different experience because of their energy, their focus, and their attention, right? So when you start to learn about this, you start to realize that your energy is a filter of how you perceive your life. And when you change your energy, your perception of your life changes. And what's possible for you changes, and you start to let go of things, and situations start to naturally resolve themselves or change beyond what you even believed. And some situations will wind up ultimately leaving you, and better situations will come in for you, but so many things start to shift as you shift your energy. And you start to realize really that your beliefs are what create your reality, and that beliefs are something that are actually programmed into us, from a young age, through your parents or watching TV or what you've told yourself about who you are. And when you start to shift these beliefs of who you are, or what's possible for you, you start to open up your horizons, and start to meet new people. And I'll give you an example of this. I had always worked in the corporate world, in the technology space. It's where my family worked. and I always loved fashion, right? But I had no connections in fashion. I remember really wanting to get into fashion. I had a great career, making a ton of money, already so many manifestations. I was living in Chicago, in the city where I wanted to live. And I remember wanting to get into fashion. I was just wanting to do something more creative. And I remember my mom's aunt had worked as a lawyer in the fashion industry. And I remember talking with her, and she's like, oh, well, I'll connect you to this one recruiter. And I was talking with him, and he was like, oh, well, you're going to have to probably, start at the bottom or start over and, maybe be an intern and get all this experience. And, you're going to have to travel to New York and try to get these interviews and work for these companies and, do all of this stuff. And, I was already in a high area of achieving, and, not that I'm resistant to doing the work that it takes, but I just knew that my skills could transfer to that industry, right? That what I was doing could transfer to the industry, that I'm not starting from scratch, right? I have skills and abilities that can be transferred to the fashion industry, and I felt like I brought a unique perspective, right? So I took that, and I could have took his limiting things of, oh, well, you can't do this, or it's going to take this many years, you have to start over, or it's too late, or whatever he wanted to say to me. I could have taken that to heart and just given up, right? Because my beliefs, or because he's been in the industry, but he has certain beliefs because of what he's experienced, right? But I had a different belief that, no, I think it's possible. And so, I wound up meeting new friends in Chicago. It was actually a lot of magical things that happened, and it was through listening to my intuition, right? Because that's also the other thing, right? You can put your thing out into the universe, but then if you're not following your intuition or those synchronicities, then ultimately you're going to stay stuck in where you are. And I remember getting in a fight with this one friend. I had flown out to Boston. We were both on a work trip. We had flown to Boston. We're like, oh, let's stay the weekend, and hang out in Boston. I had another friend that lived in Boston, and so I was going to visit her. And all these weird synchronicities wound up happening. My friend that lived in Boston wound up getting the flu, so she couldn't meet up that weekend. And then the person that I knew, my other friend that I also worked with, we were supposed to hang out, and then she wound up, spending time with this one person who I did not want to hang out with because they were unkind to my mom. I'm like, I don't want to hang out with this other person. We came to hang out in Boston, and so she was hanging out with this other person. And then I was like, you know what? I just remember being upset and frustrated about this, and it was my intuition speaking to me. And a lot of times people don't realize that, like anger, all these other emotions have a purpose. They're telling you something. They're informing you about something, right? The problem is when we hold on to it, right? We sit in that anger, and we sit in it for days or weeks or months, and then we're always angry, right? But it's emotion, it's information, and then you let it go, right? And you move on, and you don't let it affect you, right? Because when you hold on to it, that's when the danger comes. But my intuition was like, you need to leave the situation, right? So I could have stayed in Boston that weekend, but I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna leave. Like, I don't care that I booked it. I paid more money to fly back early. I'm like, I'm going back to Chicago. I flew back early. I ended up meeting up with some new people. I was a member of Soho House, which was also something that I had manifested. I remember learning about it when I had lived in Florida, and I was like, wow, I would love to be a member of Soho House. And I remember getting invited there and then becoming a member, and it was all synchronistic situation, right? And so I wound up going back to Chicago and inviting these people that I had just met, and they were always wanting to go to Soho House, right? And so it's like, oh, well, I'll be kind and bring them to Soho House. So I wound up going to Soho House that night, and I wound up meeting a friend that, became like a sister to me. She had all these contacts in Chicago, and she was like, well, let's, go out for dinner. And so I wound up meeting someone else through a friend of her who is now his lifetime friend, who was in the fashion industry. And she's actually the one that started encouraging me to create a platform, get on social media, and start my own account. And so I wound up, starting my own account, just fashion influencer account, and started gaining a following and started meeting with other people. And then it turns out a friend I already knew in fashion used to work for this really well-known fashion designer that worked in London, who's worked with, everybody from Bridget Bardot to like, you name it, all of the most well-known names. And I wound up working with her, going down to Miami. It was actually around my birthday in February for a meeting. and meeting with her and then getting hired on the spot, and I was able to start my own business. But all of these synchronicities led me to working in fashion because I felt in my heart I wanted to do something in fashion. And I wound up starting my own business around fashion partnerships. I'd always wanted to go to Fashion Week. I manifested going to Fashion Week for free, for my business. I was invited to the Glamour magazine to be a blogger for them. I, did interviews with these huge designers like Anna Sui, all of these things I manifested in the fashion industry, right? Which was so out of my realm. I didn't know anybody in fashion. I had no contacts. And like the person told me before, he told me what was possible for me based on a set of beliefs, right? But when you shift your beliefs and you open up to possibility, you set yourself on a new path, right? And that's the powerful thing too, about vision boards. And I can do a separate video about that, but there's a reason why vision boards don't work for people, because they're not doing it right? A lot of times they have beliefs that are stopping them, or they're doing it in the wrong energy. So there's so much to delve into around this topic. But beliefs are the core of life, right? And when you shift your beliefs, truly you start to shift your reality. So when you start to open up yourself to possibility and allow yourself to dream and allow yourself to just think about like, what would that be like? And allow yourself to want something greater than what you've been told you can have, or what you've been told is possible for you. That's why I think a lot of things, seeing is believing, right? A lot of people, what they see in the media or the magazines, they believe that that is possible for them. But I think, by sharing these stories, and that's why I want to have other people on in these video interviews for them to share, because it starts to make you believe it's possible for you too, right? So maybe if you don't have a chance to work with me one-on-one, you can, start to look for evidence of people that are similar to you, right? That have achieved what you have wanted to achieve, because it starts to open up your belief in yourself. And that's what is so important, I think, in life, is to believe in yourself. And we can hold that space for others, but ultimately for you to achieve something, it's your belief in yourself that truly matters, because you're the one that's going to have to keep going even when people doubt you. I've been doubted so many times in my life for so many things, but I just believe and I keep going and keep going, and people will say, oh, well, you're lucky, or you did this, but they don't know all the work and energy that you put into achieving something, right? So I'm here to be your cheerleader, to be there to energetically be your best friend, saying, hey, you got this, you can do this, but providing you with the tools and pushing you, right? Because sometimes we need that push, to keep going and to stay motivated. And if you really have a mission that's greater, if you have a why, that's going to keep you going when you want to give up. Remember why you started. Remember why it's important to you, because that's going to keep you motivated and keep you going. And if you can have a friend or somebody that you can tag team with, that's even more powerful. But that's not required, because a lot of times, as you start to level up in your life, some people will ultimately wind up leaving you, because you will see that there's some people that are only there for you, when you're going through hard times in your life, right? But when things start to get good, or you want to go do better and greater things, they're not as supportive. And maybe it's because they feel like you're leaving them, or they don't want to do something greater, but things are going to shift. And so that's why videos like this are so empowering. It's to remember and to keep going. And whenever you get in that frequency, you can meet those new friends, you can attract those new opportunities, because you're open. I've done it over and over again, moving to new places, meeting new friends. And it's when you shift your energy and you're in that trust and that frequency, you start to magnetize things to you. Even relationships. I know I've met people, I've had people come up to me in Whole Foods and ask me on dates and things like that. And not even I remember I attracted this one person who was the creative director of this huge fashion brand. And I was in sweats and a baseball cap, right? But I had just done a meditation before where I was feeling euphoria and in this amazing state. So it's really, you start to realize it's about your energy, your frequency, your beliefs is what you attract. It's the hack, it's the secret of this reality, truly. And when you start to focus on your energy, focus on your attention, your whole world shifts. So I'm excited to share with you guys a lot on this channel. Subscribe, leave a comment below, tell me what your greatest takeaway is. Tell me one thing that you're going to implement in your life, okay? Keep yourself accountable by commenting below and saying one thing that you're going to implement into your life, your greatest takeaway. And then you can come back to this video, to stay re-inspired. Watch this as much as you need. If you need to watch it over and over again, it's here for you. This is why I created this video. This is why I created this channel, because there's so many out there that I know have a dream, and I've been in those moments where you're dreaming of something, right? And you just know it's possible, but you haven't been in that step to achieve it yet, right? And you feel like giving up on it, but I'm here to tell you this video came to you synchronistically in this moment to tell you that it is possible for you. That dream you have in your heart is possible, so don't give up, keep going. I'm here for you, cheering you on. The other people in the comments that are liking the video are here cheering you on. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe so you can stay tuned for the latest videos. Follow me on Fullness of Focus. And yeah, let's keep in touch. I look forward to starting this journey with all of you. Bye.